today's show.
We discussed the Blazers' weird win over the Nuggets and whether either team should be considered a series favorite.
What adjustment will we see in Philly tonight? Should Dallas pursue Kemba or Chris Middleton? What would KD's TV show on MSG Network be called?
And he can't see it, but Harden's bloody eyes star in a new meme team.
It's Thursday, May 2nd. The starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to The Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, alongside me as always, Tass Mellis. We got the Aussie Lee Ellis, and over yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey, yo! Trey, what's up tonight?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, the Big Three had their third annual draft last night, and the number one pick was former NBA first-round pick Royce White, who had a compelling case for why he went first.
I'm 6'8", 270. I'm a point guard. it's only two of me in the world. One of them live in Hollywood. The other one's standing here with you.
The other one's on vacation.
Oh, zingers. But LeBron James did go number one, so the other LeBron James has to go number one. It just makes sense. And it brings us to today's question. What are some bold NBA comparisons that you like to make? For instance, there aren't a lot of guys who are 6'3" to 6'5", 200 pounds who can get a bucket inside and then rock the baby to sleep. One lives in OKC. The other is talking to you right now.
Oh, boy.
Wow, look at the acceleration. Look at the ball control and the finish.
And the
What?
You gotta rock the baby. I'm about 6 inches taller than anybody else that's out there, so a lot of babies to me. But we want to hear from you. So let us know on Twitter what's a bold NBA comparison you like to make. Send them to us at hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
You were a hothead like Russell Westbrook last night.
Oh, yeah,
You were
yeah.
fired up last night, TK.
I was rusty.
That's all right, all right. We got a fun show tonight. We're going to look ahead to Game 3 between the Raptors and Sixers, talk about adjustments that we could see tonight. We got a new meme team. We got a very solid play, but let's start with a little what you got. We played it on last night's show, so no need to explain it again. Let's just do it.
Call it May Madness because Nuggets Blazers Game 2 looked like a college game last night. The two teams combined to make just 15 of 55 threes. Denver had 23 offensive rebounds but scored just 20 second chance points, and the Blazers won an ugly one. With the series tied 1-1 heading to Portland, guys, who's the favorite? The Nuggets or the Blazers? What you got?
Good luck.
I think it's Portland. Give the slight advantage to them. I'm a real flip-flopper in this one.
Yeah.
To start the series, I picked Portland. After Game 1, I thought Denver was taking this. But after Game 2, I think you can attribute Portland's Game 1 performance to just getting their feet wet in the first round, to a very different defense on Damian Lillard, some actual one-on-one and two-on-one defense way out there. They struggled with that. But to see those adjustments in Game 2 means I think that they're ready. They went at Jamal Murray. He's not a great defensive player. They went at him. Nikola Jokic saw two bodies a lot of the time to get the ball out of his hands. His numbers went way down. And I think just that sort of that leadership, that level of playoff readiness that we saw in round one from their performance came out in Game 2. I think they just needed maybe to knock some of that rust off, but they look like the Blazers again. Now they have home court advantage.
Yeah, and that was an ugly game last night. The Blazers will take it. They'll take it because it takes them back to Portland now 1-1 with momentum, if you believe in that sort of stuff. But also Jamal Murray picked up a bit of a thigh injury there. He may be somewhat restricted going forward, and I think that's important for Damian Lillard. But for Lillard to play as badly as he did last night, easily his worst game of the playoffs, and the Blazers to get a win, I think that's a good sign because other guys then stepped up and they you know, they didn't. It wasn't just like, well, if Lillard has a bad game, then nobody can perform. And I think that's really important about this team. You know, Stotts kept him out of the game again at the start of the fourth quarter, like he tends to do. Again, crucial moment, I thought, but the Blazers held firm. So I think the Blazers can play much better than they did in Game 2. I think the Nuggets can play better as well.
Well, that's exactly right, especially when it came to shooting the three ball. And that's the weird thing with this Nuggets team. I think we all consider them a pretty good three-point shooting team, but they're just so inconsistent. This is now the fourth time in this postseason where these guys have hit 6 threes or less.
Yeah.
I mean, they went 6 of 29 last night. They had some great looks, some wide open looks, especially up in the corner by the Blazers bench, and they were doing their part yelling at shooters. But they're 1-3 in those games. I mean, obviously, the one weird game they won, they went 2 of 20 from downtown, and they beat the Spurs in Game 7. That was just as weird as game. But that's why I flip-flop too. And I think like coming into this series, the two most popular predictions, it felt like Blazers in 6 or Nuggets in 7. And I see why those both make sense. But it's like, what Nuggets team do you get from night in, night out shooting the three ball? Because, you know, when Jamal Murray's cooking, some of those guys like Beasley are hitting threes, they're tough out. But last night, they couldn't hit anything.
Mike
Wasn't
Malone,
even close.
Mike Malone sort of talked about the three-point shooting and said if it's not falling,
To start going in
drive
there.
inside. So, but there was obviously a miscommunication there because as the coach, surely he's the one who says, all right, guys, someone just try to go inside and get some contact maybe just to get the ball in the net because there were so many just broken down offensive plays last night where it came to a guy shooting a three and that was kind of it. Or in the fourth quarter when they got those offensive rebounds, they still couldn't put the ball back in there. So I think the Nuggets probably want to flush this one down the toilet and say, we can be so much better, but we have to be a little bit more polished.
14 offensive rebounds the Nuggets had in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, they just had more chances to win this game. I mean, as cliche as that is, we always say that. Hey, the Nuggets had their chances. They literally had their chances, more chances than the Blazers. Weird.
Yeah, the Blazers just gritted out a tough road win in this one. Nikola Jokic was basically had half the production that he had in Game 1, but he still walked off the court and gave us a gem of a line after the game because he is Nikola Jokic. He said, they didn't even play that good, to be honest. They can play better than that. You never usually hear a guy who loses a playoff game compliment the other team and say, you know what? They're way better than that.
Yeah. I mean, he called it weird too, right? The whole thing.
But they were all over him. We saw in Game 1 a lot of guys on Damian Lillard from the Nuggets side. In Game 2, we saw a lot of guys that were going to get to perform around Damian Lillard. In Game 2, we saw a lot of guys go at Nikola Jokic. Much kudos to Enes Kanter, but a lot of the doubles came and got the ball out of his hands, and just a very unproductive night for him and the Nuggets.
Trey, what's the answer to this one?
Your guess is as good as mine. I'm going with the Blazers, I guess.
Man,
they got
not even
home court
sure.
advantage and experience, but honestly, who knows? Moving on. Adding to last night's oddness was the Blazers winning despite just 14 points from Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum scored 20. Rodney Hood had 15, made a couple of threes. Enes Kanter went for 15 and 9. Zach Collins added 10 and 6. Very much a team victory for Portland. But guys, who was the Blazers' Game 2 MVP? McCollum, Hood, Kanter, or Collins? What you got?
Yeah, lots to pick from here. I'm going to go CJ McCollum. I know he shot 8 of 20. That's not all that impressive, 40%, especially for CJ. Maybe pretty good in this game, actually, when you look at the box score. But he hit those timely shots. I think they called him the silencer on the TNT broadcast because that's what he was doing. He sort of just had a knack for hitting the clutch basket to stop any sort of little Nuggets run. It reminded me actually a little bit of Butler in Game 2, taking on the Raptors, hit timely shots. 20 points, he had the best plus-minus in the game, played a ton of minutes too, 41. I'll go CJ, picking up the slack a little bit, not amazingly, but a little bit for Damian Lillard, who really struggled because they had a lot of bodies thrown at him.
The Blazers needed that fourth quarter scoring. So definitely in the fourth quarter, it was all CJ.
Yep.
But to get him there, I want to give a nod to Enes Kanter. I know we've talked about him, throughout the first series where everybody predicted the Thunder were going to beat him up and just drive at him. This guy's playing 30 minutes a game, shooting about 60% from the field, and stepping up to Nikola Jokic all night
With
long.
one functional arm.
Right.
Make him try and shoot with his left, though, Nuggets. I mean,
He's finding a way to get these key offensive rebounds are really important. He had 2 blocks and 2 steals for Enes Kanter. This guy's making some money. He was picked up off the waiver wire for the minimum, even though he's making a huge salary. Thanks, Knicks. But he's going to be making himself some money come this postseason. And it's also, I think, just a product of that locker room. That playoff locker room, everybody is playing really, really well. You saw everybody. Mo Harkless even step up, who unfortunately got injured. But it's rubbing off on everybody, and Enes Kanter looks like a new guy.
Yeah, I'll just go and throw a little bit of love there as well for Rodney Hood. Again, another decent performance.
Second straight game.
Remember last year, he was basically played out of the playoffs, and it was like, he's one of those guys, he's streaky for sure, but once he gets it going and he just provides that consistent shot for them, it makes such a difference to Portland's offense when it's not just Dame and CJ, because those guys, CJ was okay last night, but when someone else can hit shots and that ball can move around with confidence, it just makes Portland a much more difficult matchup for Denver. These other guys have to step up and shoot. And Kanter, what a great situation that must be in that locker room, seeing him, knowing what his defensive liability is, but going out there and just performing through the injury, battling, doing everything he can for his team. I think other guys see that and they go, I'm going to go out there and do everything I can.
For sure. Trey, this is a tough one. What's the correct answer?
I'm going CJ McCollum as well. 15 in the second half, and like you said, Skeets, seemed like he stopped a lot of runs. Moving on, we had a nice little skirmish last night. It happened late in the fourth when Nikola Jokic pushed Enes Kanter, who flopped into the Nuggets' Torrey Craig, sending Craig to the ground and emptying the benches, which is supposed to result in an automatic suspension for anyone who left the bench, but no suspensions have been announced yet. Is that the right call or the wrong call? What you got?
Oh, that's the right call.
Yeah. This rule, I think we need to maybe tweak it a little bit and just apply a bit more common sense.
The rule you're talking about, if you leave the bench in sort of any sort
basically,
of
if your foot goes onto the court, that's a one-game suspension. Because we've seen obviously what's happened in the past with the Suns back in the day with the Robert Horry on Steve Nash, and it can really tilt a series. And in this case, it could have potentially wiped out a lot of Denver Nuggets
there
players.
was like 6 Nuggets players, maybe 7.
It'd be like Trey Kirby
Turner.
knocking out Nuggets.
I think the league probably looked at it and said, we have handed out these suspensions in the past, but it would be
Where's Wancho?
stupid.
Yeah,
But no, this fight, there was a little bit tense, of course, and there's a little bit of pushing and shoving, but the right common sense decision has been made.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean,
Right.
I guess the league could come out and say, hey, Evan Turner, you came out there,
Yeah.
you came screaming in there, hey, Jamal Murray, you weren't on the floor when it actually broke out and you were in there mixing up. I guess we could find out. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's unlikely. But they also have like a little get out of jail free card here to play too. Their timeout did occur.
Yeah.
There was a timeout when the altercation happened. So it's like, everybody comes onto the floor
Yeah.
during a timeout. So you sort of have that out.
The David Stern era of handing out a suspension to everybody who walks on the floor, it's over. It's the common sense era. Yeah.
Let's hope so. Trey, what's the answer?
Yeah, that's the right call. Sorry, Suns fans. Right call.
Yeah.
Tough break.
right,
Wrong year.
When we come back, we're going to start looking ahead to tonight's Game 3 between the Raptors and Sixers. Can we call it pivotal, Lee? Game 3?
No, man, no,
What,
not before Game 5, and
Okay.
it must be 2-2.
It's a big game.
Yeah.
Very big game.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Welcome back to the starters. Time to fill in some blanks by playing a little fill in the blank. Let's get into it. We got our first venue switch of the second round tonight as the Raptors and 76ers are headed to Philly with the series tied 1-1. Game 1 was all about Kawhi Leonard. Game 2 was Jimmy, literally not James Butler. Guys, tonight's Game 3, fill in the blank. The biggest adjustment we'll see tonight is blank.
I'm saying aggressive Joel Embiid because so far in the series, Marc Gasol has done a very good job on him. 14 points on 7 rebounds on 28% shooting. And Embiid hit that critical basket in Game 2. So I think he's going to feel like, you know what, I have to get out there and get my body and start throwing around and maybe try to get a few fouls on Marc Gasol and get him off the court. So then Embiid can have a bit more of an impact because it is important for the Sixers that he can go out there and put up some numbers that we saw during the regular season and not just get owned by Marc Gasol. And you know as well that Embiid wants to sort of flex his muscles a little bit in front of his home fans. So I wouldn't be surprised if Brett Brown says, let's go to the big fella, let's see if we can get him going early on.
Mine goes hand in hand with yours because I'm going with tethering Gasol to Embiid. Shout out to my man Blake Murphy over at The Athletic talking about the Raps because what he means by this is what you're talking about, Lee. Gasol has owned him.
Yeah.
When he's on Embiid, he's owned him in this series. But the problem is, for whatever reason, at times, Nick Nurse is trying to keep somewhat of a regular rotation. So Embiid stays out there, Gasol goes to the bench, Ibaka comes out, and he hasn't had as much success. The team hasn't had as much success when it's Ibaka out there and you got Embiid going. So I'm excited to see if Nick Nurse changes his rotations and keeps more of his star players matched up with the Philly starters and has a little shorter leash when it comes to the bench and going with 3 or 4 bench players. I think he's going to switch it up tonight.
Going to be very interesting. I went with Pascal Siakam will be good. That's not an adjustment at all. But for the first time in Pascal Siakam's playoff career, they decided, hey, we're going to put a different defender on him. They game planned for Pascal Siakam for the first time in his career in game number 2 because he is a number 2 player on this team for the first time in his career. Through the first 6 games, he has been monstrous, 50% or better from the floor. And in his 7th game, yes, he struggled big time. That was the first time he'd been game planned for, so I think he just bounces back. Joel Embiid was out there doing a very good job stopping him at the rim because it's hard for Pascal Siakam to go up against a 7-footer by the rim. It was a very difficult matchup. But I think he's just learned. I think everybody, from 1 through 12 on the Raptors roster, I think they've just learned that, hey, adjustments are going to come, and they should bounce back in general.
Trey, our next one.
Apparently, there are still other teams in the league besides ones that aren't in the playoffs, as the New York Times' Mark Stein is reporting that the Dallas Mavericks, quote, intend to fling themselves into the chase for Chris Middleton and/or Kemba Walker with gusto. Gusto, guys. Fill in the blank. The Mavericks should pursue blank.
Well, I'm saying Kemba. I think it'd be great to have another point guard there. I know that Luka can handle the ball, but it'd be great to have someone else who can create for himself and just mix things up a little bit and go into a situation where he's playing with genuine stars for the first time in his career. I mean, real stars where the ceiling there for Dallas is really high, and I think that'd be great for Kemba, great for Luka, great for Kristaps Porzingis. So I think that would be the best situation. Middleton was an all-star this year. He's great, but I think Kemba just being able to create for himself and get his own bucket will help Doncic and Porzingis.
Well, it's funny. I would prefer Middleton, but I actually went with Kemba because I think it's more realistic than getting Middleton. I don't see Middleton. I mean, look at the Bucks. They signed Eric Bledsoe to keep him around. You know they're going to want to keep Middleton in the mix, and he's on a 60-win team. He's playing with an MVP. They obviously have plans to go deep into this postseason. I love Middleton on that squad, but I think Kemba is a more realistic sort of draw lure to maybe get him to come to Dallas. But I don't even see that happening. I think they should go a little lower, and like lower in terms of tier, maybe like a Patrick Beverley or something like that is maybe a little more realistic. But I guess I go Kemba to see it happen.
Between these two, I would pick Chris Middleton as well. I wonder if they want a playmaker who is as dominant as Kemba Walker, because they traded away Dennis Smith, from this team, who was another ball-dominant guard, and I'm sure they want to pair Luka Doncic with somebody who plays a lot of defense at the other guard position as well. So I think Chris Middleton is probably the one that they would go after. They traded away Harrison Barnes, which is sort of like a Chris Middleton light at the trade deadline, because they wanted a better version of that. So I could see them going after Chris Middleton.
Malcolm Brogdon on the Bucks is also a possibility. Someone to really go after, give you some defense at that guard position. All right, Trey, final one.
There have been rumors all season about Kevin Durant heading to the Knicks in the summer, but now there are even rumors about those rumors, as the New York Post speculated this week that if Durant does sign with the Knicks, he will eventually host a show on the MSG network. Man's got shows all over the place. Guys, fill in the blank. Kevin Durant's TV show should be called blank.
Just keep it simple, KD TV. A bit like Uncle Splash, 3D TV. He could maybe even sell some of his own attire, maybe those bucket hats and shoes. And I think that just keeps it simple, He could have his own players only baby as well.
KD TV, it's good. What do you got?
I went simple as well. KD and Lee. Our own Lee Ellis should be hosting the show because he is in the Knicks' back pocket. You would never say anything negative about that franchise. You would only be their propaganda
We've had some
machine.
lean years, and I think now we're on the way up.
Right.
I think you can see what happened. I mean,
I like this
Give the man
idea.
a job.
I like this idea a lot. I went with Why Do I Gotta Talk to You as the name of the show. That is the infamous words that KD said when he was really angry with the media, and that's what this show's going to be. KD talking to somebody from the media. I guess you could be included in this, Lee. You have a sit down, and he just gets angry with you, questions why you said particular things about him.
I think there's something there.
It could be entertaining.
Yeah.
Could be entertaining.
And
Get a
then we
lot
could
off
go
his
out and
chest.
shoot some hoops afterwards.
Sure.
Perfect.
Why not? All right, let's hear from you guys. What do you think, the potential name of Kevin Durant's MSG Network show should be called? When we come back, we got a brand new edition of the Meme Team. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to The Starters. Every week we scour the internet to bring you the Meme Team, our favorite weird and wacky moments from the past 7 days.
At number 5, it's Celtics legend Tommy Heinsohn, plus Baby Got Back. Get ready to move.
I'm tired of people saying Milwaukee has a prayer. The Bucks may have the 1 seed, but they have only 1 player. So fellas, yay! Ladies, yay! Is your team facing the Bucks? Hell yay! Tell them to beat them. Beat them, beat them, beat them! Beat those wacky Bucks. Tommy got back. Tommy got back. Whatever that means.
Wow, that was interesting. At number 4, head of Game 1, Nuggets Blazers. A lot of the guys wearing LeBron 16 Martin colorway shoes there. LeBron took notice. Daniel Craig, Mo Harkless, Myers Leonard, all rocking those. Oh, Daniel Craig, James Bond. Oh, you meant Torrey Craig. LeBron did send out this tweet. Wouldn't mind seeing Daniel Craig in them in the 00 movie as well. Yeah, James Bond there. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, very stylish with a suit, I'm sure.
Yes.
At number 3, when it comes to the first round of the playoffs, NBA fans be like...
Here we go again. Playoff Lowry. DJ Augustine is a grown man. 0 points. Where's the bro? Where y'all at, Trailblazers Game 3? Evan Fournier only scored 1 basket? I could have scored 2. Is that really how Rubio's going to guard Harden? Harden went 3 for 20 and we still won. How does Embiid not play and we still lose? Jokic scored 43 points and we still lost. No one can guard Lou Williams. We could actually win this series. He is Kevin Durant. You know who he is. If this is what we're going to do, why we even force Game 7? This is our year. At least we still got the playoff streak.
At number 2, Rockets Warriors Game 2, James Harden gets hit in the eyes from Draymond Green. Looked crazy with the bloodshot eyes there, and the internet got to work when she puts her ex back in her bio. Ooh. Sorry, guacamole is extra. Yep.
Worth it.
The second you hear Beyonce start singing that beautiful ballad, yeah, you'll tear up from that. And of course, Harden. Well, he got the crying MJ meme. Yeah, just merging them together.
At number 1, last week it was Lillard's shot, but this week Arya takes his place. It's over the Night King!
There were a lot of these.
This shot basically took as long as it took Arya to stab the Night King. Oh, she's celebrating like Dame too. Usually she's a loner, but she's hanging out with some peeps here. The Night King, that's a bad shot. I don't care what anybody says. Sorry, Paul George. And Arya, yeah, she came flying in like Split, like MJ.
Good work, Internet, good work. All right, when we come back, Lily hits us with the very solid play.
More like Game of Thrones.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, man. Now you get it.
You got it.
Yeah.
Good reference.
Only one game on again tonight. This one on ESPN. Game 3, Raptors 76ers. Mike Scott says he's gonna play.
Yeah, that's according to my mate Ben Mallis from.
What? Your friend says he's gonna play? I hope we have a more reputable source than that.
My friend Larry says no way.
It's also according to Mike Scott.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but via Ben.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Ben's got the scoop. Yeah, Ben's got the scoop. I got it.
Yeah.
All right. Very solid play. This one by way of Lee Ellis.
Yeah. I mean, he's from Perth. I won't hold that against him, but he's still an Australian. Anyway, getting back here, beautiful one here from the Blazers. Look at the ball just fizz around there. Rodney Hood steps in, knocks it down. That's how you do it. That's all you have to do. Move the ball.
Simple.
Get ready. Bounce pass here from Seth. This is beautiful. There it
Nice.
is. Zach knows what to do. Keep that ball moving. And with Rodney, that's beautiful. That's what I call a very solid play.
Blazers loved that one, didn't they?
Sure
But
did.
wait, there's more!
Whoa!
We had a very solid play in our pickup run last night. Skeets, there he is!
my
J.E. Skeets dumps it down in to Drew. Drew, he finds Hunt here in the corner. Hunt, a tiny pump fake party, drives hard baseline. It's Dan Eisner. NBA TV's on Dan Eisner for the layup, and that's what I call a very solid pickup play.
Oh my goodness. It just looks like we're playing it in slow motion.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It feels
We
so
are.
fast when you're on there. All right, tomorrow we got the Drop Podcast. Get your questions in right now. Hashtag the starters. And we're sending our best, by the way, to Blazers assistant coach John Yim and Celtics GM Danny Ainge. Prayers up for both of those guys. Catch the drop, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
We should have been wearing bow ties tonight.
That's right. Good call. Take care, guys. Embrace the night, people.